Okay, so question 15, being asked to find essentially the volume of a cylinder, but in a slightly different, more problem-solving kind of way. So we've got a dog's toy, which is a cylinder bent round to make a ring, and we've got to estimate the volume of it. So the volume of a cylinder we know is pi r squared h. It's a prism, so the volume of any prism is the area of the top part times the height. So the area of the top part of a circle is pi r squared, then we times by the height. So we know pi, we just now need to work out the radius and the height, then we can plug our numbers into that formula. So if you look carefully at this diagram, this distance here is 8, whereas this distance here is 9. So that means that this distance here will be 1 centimetre. Because obviously if that's 8 and that's 9, the difference is 1 centimetre. That means then that the diameter of the circle at the top then is 1 centimetre. So if the diameter is 1 centimetre, that must mean that the radius is equal to 0.5 centimetres. So there you just had to spot that the difference between the 8 and the 9 was 1, and the radius will be half of that. Okay, the height then is a little bit trickier, because obviously this is the height of my cylinder, but when I bend it round, this is one side and this is the other side. So both of these will give our height, but actually now they're different, because this circumference is for the circle of radius 8 and this circumference is for the circle of radius 9. So a few different things you can do here. Either you can assume that the biggest radius, you can assume it's 9, you could assume the smallest radius, which is 8, or you could say, well, I'm going to go for the one in the middle, which would be a radius of 8.5. And then you can do any of these, but it's going to link in then to our assumptions at the end. So I'm going to do it where I assume the radius is 8.5, so halfway between the two that I've got. So I'm now going to work out the height, which if you remember is our circumference. So circumference of a circle, so I should write that this, the circumference is pi times diameter, or 2 pi r. So that's 2 times pi, and I'm going to assume the radius is 8.5 because I'm going halfway between the 8 and the 9. I'm just going to leave this in terms of pi, so this will be 17 pi. You could work it out as a decimal, but then you might have to round, which will make your final answer less accurate. I now know my radius, I know my height, so I can put it into this formula here. So the volume then is pi times the radius squared, so times 0.5 squared, times the height, which is 17 pi. And if you do that on your calculator, you should get the answer of 41.95, and obviously we're talking about volume, so it will be centimetres cubed. So the final part says state the assumptions you've made. So this relates to what you did for your height in terms of the value for your radius. So my assumption would be that I assumed a mid value for the radius. If you use 9 here, you'd say I assumed the larger radius, so the volume will actually be less. If you use 8, you say I assumed a smaller radius, so my actual volume will be bigger, something like that. So your assumption depends on the value that you had here.